Welcome to the video that I desperately dreaded eventually having to make.
Press him, press him! Put pressure on him.
No, today's video isn't an apology for something heinous I did, because I didn't do anything heinous or anything of that typical nature. Apologies for the noises upstairs, they're kind of just everywhere now, but really, it's about the channel. You've probably been noticing I've been remarkably inactive in the last little bit because, well, frankly, there's a good reason for that. See, almost all of the Nerf War videos that I was posting, they were with the Victoria Foam Blaster Association, or the VFBA. Longtime viewers would probably know that was that particular gym, and then we had Metchosin, which was an event in school that the Metchosin Fire Department used for training. Well, the VFBA is, well, let's just say it's not around anymore. So there were a couple little wars I had here and there with our local LGBT group. Unfortunately, there were only a couple of them and they never restarted them. So where does that leave me? Well, I couldn't go to every VFBA game because I don't live where the VFBA was actually, engaging. I live about 250 kilometers away. So that required a vehicle, which I can't afford. I just can't afford a vehicle right now. I can't afford the fuel for the vehicle right now. I can't really afford to do that on my own, so it had to be a day trip, and it took like 3 hours to actually get to Victoria and get there, and then another 3 hours to get back. So that's a 6-hour drive for like a 2.5-hour game. And out of that I edit things down and I get, a 20-minute video every couple of weeks for a 3-month span, a 3-month off span, and a 3-month on span. It's a challenge to get out of town to do wars. And there's no real big group of people to do that in town where I could reasonably just show up with my gear and all of that. It's very, very rare that'll happen. So as someone whose entire channel, or most of it at least, thank you very much, Clock, whose channel revolves around Nerf stuff, this is really a problem because there's just nowhere to actually, play games anymore and use my stuff. I've got thousands of dollars of kit hanging around that I've been collecting since 2009. Yeah, my collection is absolutely absurd. I have a whole box of stuff that I'm trying to sell because, well, where am I going to use it? And also, half of it's redundant and I needed the space. But I'm not throwing away my stuff, I'm not selling my gear, and I'm not outright quitting Nerf in general. Like, I'm keeping an armory. I'm keeping an armory in case, the VFBA or some other successor group comes up and, things start to work out again. But unfortunately, it's looking like Nerf is just not going to be the way forward for this channel or the content I'm going to be making. But thankfully, I did leave myself another option, because if you remember to the earlier parts of the channel, there was this little series called Lycan's Archaeotech that very much took a back seat, and I haven't really posted to that in a good long while, where I sort of went over vintage technology and how a lot of old tech works, and BBSs, old computers, modems, that sort of thing. So with the fact that Nerf isn't really working out for me, and I've stopped buying new stuff, by the way, and let's just say that Hasbro has completely abandoned anyone who cares about quality of their kit at all, because there's nothing interesting that they produce anymore, and they've basically forsaken the dart that they created that became the standard with their stupid, oh well, other people make better darts for cheaper, therefore we can't improve our product, we have to make money by selling the same darts but more expensive and worse. Ooh. With all that's been going on in the hobby and how we've been the only ones making interesting stuff, we the hobby and Dart Zone, at this point, with no wars going on either, and lots of stuff going on at home that I'm not completely at liberty to talk about, but let's just say things are chaotic. Yes, that screaming you heard was a child. That's what very small children do. But anyways, I'm not fully at liberty to talk about exactly what's going on in my home life, but let's just say that it's not conducive to Nerf stuff. So I want to know if I want to know if you're interested in Lycan's Archaeotech, and if I should focus more on that rather than Nerf, because there's not going to be any Nerf content for the foreseeable future. And a lot of the money that I was spending towards Nerf, because, expensive hobby times 2 or 3, I want to know if you want to see the kind of money that I spent on my old tech, if you want to see videos on that sort of stuff. I got a whole analog TV system set up down here. I've got Field Station 42 set up. Hell, behind the camera right now I have a toaster oven from the 1970s that still works, and it's connected to a smart plug, and I can make toast right now. But there's a lot of old tech down here that I've been collecting instead, and that is content that I can make, and it's something that has precedent in my channel. So let me know if that's something you actually want to see. I think I did remove the auxiliary from my name because the crew auxiliary kind of collapsed in on itself, and let's just say that didn't work out very well in the end. And even Captain Xavier admitted as much. But that did cause me to abandon that particular character that you see on my channel. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to abandon the Lycan name entirely and rename it to something else. We'll see. But for now, unfortunately, it seems like Nerf content isn't happening. So, let me know what you think in the comments. I'll read every one, even though there's probably going to be 2 of them. So, take care.